Right, good evening all. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I hope you had a really good reefing week. We've got, this is our fourth live stream. So I can see from the chat already, we've got some regulars after 4 weeks. So thank you very much. We've got obviously Ross from the Bearded Reef, Jay's from Jay's Real Reef UK. Steve is just joining us. I'm just going to patch him in now. Hiya, Steve. And just on time.
I've been waiting backstage for 5 minutes.
Steve, what you done to your sound? Calm yourself.
That's really bad, mate.
Is it low?
Yeah.
No, it's too high. You sound like you're shrieking. Just as I do me intro, you come steaming in.
I thought you'd missed the bus, Steve.
Let me see. Is it come down now?
No.
What microphone have you got? Is it like a kid's one out of Fisher Price?
What about now?
That's better.
That's better. Yeah. Can I carry on, Steve?
You just gate-crashed it.
I shouldn't have let him in, should I? I should have waited until about 5 minutes from the end and then let him in.
Is that better now, yeah?
That is great.
Yeah.
So can I carry on? So as I was saying, welcome all. We've got 19 in the house, so thank you so far. As we've obviously got Jay, we've got Ross, and then obviously Steve has made an entrance, and we have Dom from Kraken. We'll come back to Dom at the moment. So yeah, this is our fourth week, and thank you very much for all those people that have come back, some for second, third, and some for fourth time. So we really appreciate it. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to fire some questions at Dom, introduce him in a moment. What I would ask is don't fire your questions in straight away, because I know last week we had over 900 comments and it was quite hard catching up. So what we'll do, we'll speak to Dom, ask some questions, and then we'll come to the chat and say, well, have you got to ask Dom about different subjects as we go throughout the evening. I think hopefully that will make life easier. So Dom, welcome to the live stream. Thank you very much. The reason why we asked Dom, I know that the three guys have all bought from Kraken before. I've been on a WhatsApp group with Dom for the last 2 or 3 years, so this is not sponsored in any way. It's just we've known him from in different shapes and form. He was on the live stream. I think it was week 2. Made a great contribution, and we thought we'd make him our first guest. So, Dom, welcome.
Thanks very much. I only missed last week because my phone ran out of power, and I forgot.
It happens. So, I think I'll just open up one of the questions. So, what made you get into the hobby, and then actually, what made you then actually start up a shop?
Stupidity on both accounts, I think. Never been so poor. I just started up. It was just a hobby. There was a shop near me. I popped in one day, came out with a cube tank, a 2-foot cube, and started from there, really. I had 1 tank, then 2 tanks, then 4 tanks, then 6 tanks at home, and figured it was time to have a shop, mainly to make it tax deductible so I could claim all that money back.
So did you start up as a kind of a shed seller, or from your back garden or anything like that, or did you go straight into?
Yeah, I only did a bit of shed selling for maybe 2 or 3 weeks before I realised that was pointless. Yeah, so I just then decided to have a shop. My house was basically, I rented a house. It had 3 fish tanks in one room, 2 in another room. My office was upstairs, and my other half at the time lived next door. So it didn't make much sense to have one house just as a place. So I got rid of the house and moved in with her and got a unit instead.
So is that the unit you're in now?
That is the one we're in now. We've been in here for nearly 5 years, I think. Or the shop's been open for nearly 5 years.
Cool. And I know you extended the shop, didn't you? Or fairly recently, or the last year or so?
Because online's been quite busy in the last year, we took on another unit over the road for warehousing and office, shut my office down that was in the back of this shop, and then it was just pointless space. So we made the shop a bit bigger, probably a good chunk bigger, to be fair. For those that have been, they'll have seen the difference. It just makes more room, easy, especially in COVID times. You need more space for people to have that merry COVID dance that they all have to do around the shop.
Yeah.
So we've got a bit more space for that. And hopefully when we get opened up again and we have another frag meet here, we can squeeze more people in.
Yeah. So what's your plans on the frag meets? There was one last July, wasn't there?
We missed last July. It was the
One
July,
before, sorry,
maybe the December just before lockdown. So 2019 was the last one. So it's been a long time now.
Yeah.
Due. So with any luck, we'll have one at the end of July, but that depends on old Boris.
Yeah.
What's a frag meet? So we turn up with just frags and you swap them, or you buy them from each other? I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah, there's a bit of both goes on. Ideally, we'd just like to see people interacting with each other and swapping with each other and just having a jolly good reefing day, really. But there's always an element of people buying frags off each other because you don't always have what they want.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Sounds good. Hopefully we can get one of those going. I'd love to go to a frag meet. That'll be.
It is a busy thing. I think we have a video on our YouTube somewhere of a frag meet or two from previous that you can have a peek at when you get time.
Yeah. Is it mainly zoas that people are trading, or is it like?
Bit of everything, to be fair.
Like torches and stuff? You know, good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of reefers around the Manchester area, which is pretty much out bay.
The northwest is like the Barrier Reef, isn't it? All the top reefers are in the northwest.
We were saying that last week, weren't we? How many people were in the chat and how vibrant it is around that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of shops around here. There's a lot of shops and a lot of reef keepers. So, yeah, there's plenty to go at.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just moving on, since you've started in the hobby, and I suppose been in the shop as well, what's changed? What's the biggest changes you've seen and where we are today?
Availability has been terrible. Livestock availability has got worse, but more and more things have been given silly names. So it's just, and I can't remember them all. I'm bad enough with people's names, let alone.
Ross has got some, hasn't he? Ross has got some. Like Wango Tangos, Ross has got.
You didn't believe me about them, did you? But prove you during the week.
Yeah, I mean, Zoas has always had names, but then more and more items started being given names that torches never used to have names. Now they've all got fancy names. They're starting to move on to other things. It won't be long before you're giving names to toadstools and whatnot. It won't be far off, will it?
Yeah, torches have gone mad, haven't they, the last 12, 18 months?
Yeah, they never used to have names. They've just sprouted up all over the place. So.
Is it because of names, or is it pictures, or social media? What do you think's driven it?
Yeah, definitely. It's an Instagram world now, isn't it? As you all know. So you all posting pictures. You want it to look fancy, and America's had a big part in that, and they putting names on everything and giving it a fancy picture. And then we've tried to emulate that or get a piece of that action, I suppose. Yeah. And to be fair, it's easier to remember than Latin.
That is true. Very true.
Yeah. So why the reason that fish has become more hard to come by? Is this because of bans or
fish? Yeah, but it's been on and off bans, hasn't it? It's that ban on Hawaii fish at the moment is causing a problem because we get calls every day for yellow tangs now. Yellow tangs. We got any yellow tangs? No, there's no yellow tangs.
Is the demand? Sorry, go on.
They seem to have done this Hawaii thing every couple of years for a while, and they've slowly slipped back through. So we'll have to see if it happens again or whether it's more of a permanent thing this time around.
Yeah. Do you think there's a demand for yellow tangs because you can't get it?
There's always a demand. Whatever you can't get is what's popular every time. Yeah. So if somebody sees something that you can't have, they all want it. It's like anything, isn't it?
Yeah, hence why things like holy Grail torches and things like that.
Whatever's really hard to get hold of. As soon as there's loads of it, everybody's got it. Nobody wants it.
Yeah. Some of the Zoas used to be like that, didn't they? Utter chaos. I remember they were really, really expensive, and
now they're everywhere.
They grow like weeds, don't they? And the price should be really, really low.
Yeah, it's always going to be the same. Whenever Even though some of the torches, the Holy Grail's not a fast grower, but some of the other fancy named ones that will go in for 200, 250 a head, they're a fast grower. And before you know it, they're going to be everywhere. Nobody will want them. And then we'll all be on to something else.
Is it the governments of the countries that have brought the ban in, or is it the industry itself, the coral industry? Who's brought the ban in?
On the fish, you mean, in Hawaii? Yeah. It's environmentalists that started it, I believe. They obviously, and in theory, they're supposed to do an environmental study before they can release any fish back out the ocean again.
Right, okay. So when
we'll
the population rises, then they'll lift the ban.
I mean, ultimately, hopefully it'll drive more captive bred. But all the captive bred fish I've seen at the moment, their colours tend to be weaker. So they're a bit pasty in colours, and they're really, really expensive. And until that price comes down, but it's like anything when it's new, it's terrible. Like tank bred flame angels were a normal flame angel that was caught was 80 or 90 quid, and a tank bred was 160, 180 quid. And the colours were weak, and they're a bit pale and wishy-washy. So it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to sell people, something that doesn't look as good and costs twice the amount.
Yeah.
You're not going to convince people, are you? I think people would buy sustainable, like with clowns. I probably wouldn't dream of buying a wild-caught pair of clowns now, because there's so many that are tank bred, aren't there?
There's a lot of tank bred clowns, and there are quite a few other tank bred species out there in abundance. A lot of the cardinals are tank bred. They're easy to get hold of, and the colours are good because you can breed them in captivity easily. But anything like tangs and angels, which takes a lot more money and work to do, I can understand why they're expensive, but it's just a hard thing to sell over something that was half the price.
Yeah. So have you seen the supply of tank bred fish increase quite a lot in the last couple of years, or is it really a slow burner?
It's going to be slow because we don't have any captive bred facilities beyond what you can grow in a tank in this country. So the clowns and the cardinals are readily available here because we can tank breed them, and somebody can do that at home or in a growing facility. But things like tangs, then it's such a big area. It's more like cordoning off part of the sea life centre to grow them than it is doing it at home. So it's just not cost effective to do it. And our electric prices and water prices are not the same as they are abroad.
Yeah.
So
and the hobby's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hobby's a lot smaller, isn't it?
Small hobby. Yeah. It's going to be a really difficult thing for us long term. Hopefully, the likes of De Jong, who are getting captive bred specimens from Hawaii, because they've got the space to, the infrastructure to do it over there. Hopefully, we'll see that filter through, but it'll take a while.
Yeah, I've seen videos of their facilities, absolutely massive. They have their sump underneath their building, don't they? From what I've seen.
Yeah.
So how much is a yellow tang worth at the moment then, just out of interest?
Well, I don't have any, so I ain't got a clue.
Oh, right, okay. You can't get hold of them.
To be fair, the last one I sold was still the same, 130 quid. Because if I wasn't paying any more, I'm not going to charge any more. We just kept the markup the same. But there isn't any of the suppliers, so what's left, I'm sure, will be more expensive.
Yeah.
The only ones I've seen is ones where people are talking about in America for $400, which is £350, something roughly like that. So that's and that's kind of fairly near to I suppose where they used to be kept, didn't they, or caught? So it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
The beauty of having a nano, it's never an option to have one.
Can't put one in there.
That's why
I have 3 yellow tangs in the store. I've got 3 here in different tanks. I've got a nice big chunky one in there. I won't sell it. It's lived in there for years. I'm not getting rid of it, but people keep trying to buy it.
I can imagine.
What if you're offered $1,000 for it?
£1,000, no problem. You can come and pick it up.
There is a prize. There is a prize, isn't there? Yeah. But yeah, it's good.
So just a couple of things on there. So JB Aquatics paid £80 last week. I wonder if was that a store, was that a wholesaler, was that a tank breakdown? Because that sounds really, really cheap. Yellows used to be £32.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember I've got one in my tank that I've had for I think about 3 or 4 years, and I think I paid about 40 quid at that time. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since since then, but I suppose a lot of fish prices. How much do you think fish prices have gone up, Dom?
Well, it depends where it comes from. Hawaii fish, like I say, in 2 years went from 35 to nearly 100 quid for most fish. And every year, every other year, they went up and up and up and up and up. But yeah, clowns, they're still at what, 12 to 15 pounds for baby tank bred clowns. It's fairly cheap.
Yeah, and then you start getting the Picassos and things like that, and the prices go up, don't they?
And they've come down as well. When the new designer ones come out, they're quite expensive. When there was like plasma storms and whatnot came out, and they were like between £900 for a pair, you're picking them up now for £350.
Well, what, Dom? Why is it? Do you think? Why is it you think that the prices have gone up? Because there's no change. They're not changing the facilities, or they're not doing anything different to cultivating them or anything like that, is there?
What, on the fish?
Prices gone up so much on the fish.
Prices always go up because transport costs go up primarily. I guess that's one thing. Especially last year, thanks to COVID, well, the prices of transport went through the roof. So everything was at least 20% higher last year than the year before. And then availability, when they shrink down the amount of captures that they're allowed, obviously the price of each fish goes up to compensate.
Right, yeah.
If you're only allowed 100 fish instead of 500 fish, and you still need to make the same amount of money, don't you?
Yeah. Is that what are you limited on how many you can buy from each wholesaler sort of thing? So, say if you went into a store, can you say if you had said, say for argument's sake, there was 100 tanks in there, could you say I want all 100, or did he say no, you can only have 20?
Not traditionally, you could buy as many as you want, but yeah, we did start to see limit, especially the last lot of yellow tangs. We were only allowed to buy one.
Yeah, wow.
You know, they've got to spread it out between all the shops, really, which is fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Niels, I was just about to ask this question. Do most of your fish come from TMC, or is there other wholesalers, or do you import at all?
All of my fish come from TMC. I only shop there for fish. I just like to keep all my eggs in one basket when it comes to fish, so I can know who to shout at if there's any problems. I have imported in the past for fish, but it doesn't particularly work out any cheaper when you have to cover the loss and the time, because imports don't generally arrive till night time. So somebody has to come in on an evening and unload that and unpack it and put all the fish away, and they're here till 11 o'clock or midnight.
Yeah.
TMC at Manchester is 40 minutes down the road.
Yeah. If you import fish, do you need the same kind of licenses that you need for coral?
Yeah, there's a lot of CITES and health certificates. We don't tend to do it direct. We'll use a third party who takes care of all the paperwork, and they take their cut on top. But for us, we've always found that direct or box shipping fish has just not been financially any better, and it's just been more hard work. So we just don't bother. We stick to TMC for fish. Get coral from a few different places, but TMC just for fish.
Yeah. Are there many other fish wholesalers in the UK? Because TMC is the name I always hear and see, but I know there's a couple of smaller ones around, but I'm not too sure how many there actually are around.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I can't say I've ever used any other ones. I've just stick to what works for us, to be fair. I know there are some importers bringing in bits and bobs of fish, but unless you've got loads of space, it's hard to keep loads of fish where you can just go and pick like you can at TMC to a point.
Yeah. I suppose you can see the advantage over importing is that you can go and see and pick out the ones that you think are the best of the bunch, can't you?
I can feed them and just hand pick which ones I want, net them out, take them away, check that they're all right, check that the fins are intact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big difference to just randomly appearing in a box. I could order a small and you get a large in a box, or they send you stuff you don't actually order sometimes, which is a bit annoying, but yeah.
Crazy.
So, Shell.
Yeah, Shell. That's my other half.
I know. Isn't as big as people think.
Like TMC, when you watch Tanked and they went to their fish wholesalers, it was massive, wasn't it? Rows and rows and rows of tanks.
Yeah.
No, TMC is pretty small. Two people can't pass down an aisle of fish. It's quite.
And they've got, was it about 5 or 6 out there? And then they've got one in Manchester, haven't they? Got one in
There's
London,
one in Manchester,
one in
one in Bristol, one in London. I think just the 3 round in this country. I've not been to
Yeah.
the other two because it's a trek out.
Yeah, so if you're not around those areas, it's a bit of a round trip, isn't it? To
It
go
is a
there
bit of
early
a
in the
round
morning,
trip.
get back to
Yeah.
your store, get all the fish sorted and then open for business. That's a long day, isn't it?
It would be a really long day, and they will move fish for me. So if there's a specific special fish that they've got down in London, I can have it moved up to Manchester.
Yeah. So then moving on to corals, how does that work? Do you know, in terms of import, do you have your own brood stock and you kind of frag those? How does it work?
We only have bits and pieces that we frag off. We don't really have the space to farm and grow. So again, we tend to stick to a few core suppliers that we use, including TMC, but a little bit more limited than they used to be because they don't seem to be turning over the amount of coral that they used to do. So the selection isn't as good, shall we say? So
just been reading some of the comments here, and one of them, Paul UK Reef has put Don, what's the bread and butter most profitable item to an LFS? Surely the livestock has a limited margin. Is there a go-to product to pay the lecky bill?
I guess it's water. I guess water is probably one of the best things.
Yeah.
I think there's more margin on fish, but there's more running costs.
Yeah.
So, you get a little bit more markup on a fish or a coral, but it costs a fortune in time and stuff to do that. Nothing in particular. Nothing that makes any money. It's really low everywhere.
Oh yeah, I've got to say.
Who's that noise?
Sorry, it's me in the background. There's people coming into the house and having a conversation. So totally distracting me. So Dom, in terms of corals, do you see more and more people, I suppose, having their own kind of brood stock, their own kind of coral farms, and then using those and relying less on imports or wherever people get them from?
There are some coral farms in the UK and abroad that we used to use, and that's fine up to a point, but they can only grow so many varieties, and when your local customers have got a frag of that, you're not selling any more of it. I can sell 10 of one type of chalice, and then everybody local's got that type of chalice, and they want the next thing and the next thing. So then you have to keep looking and keep looking. So I like the idea of farming it ourselves. I like the idea of using farms, but you just need the availability and the variety of stock. And you don't always get that, unfortunately. And I know most coral, though, all the Indonesian stuff that's coming in the moment, it's all mariculture. It's all pretty much grown now, thankfully, rather than just plucked out.
So that's more sustainable.
Yeah, the torches and the SPS especially.
Yeah.
Do you get like hobbyists, Don, coming in and trade? Like bringing in the frags and all that.
Oh yeah, get people bringing in frags for credit on dry goods or against the live goods. Yeah. That's a good thing. We don't mind taking it in as long as we don't have hundreds of the same thing. Yeah, we quite often take it in. We can get a bit more. It's the only way to get those items that people keep asking me for. They'll come in and ask for a specific silly name of Zoa or Hammer or Chalice or whatever, and it's happening more and more that when I look at shopping lists now from wholesalers, they've made up their own names for some unapparent reason to try and sell items, but I can't go on there and go Walt Disney Acro. I can order it sometimes, it appears on there now, but it's not the right thing when it arrives. It's completely wrong color. It's something similar, but it's not right. So I have to get those kind of items off customers if they've got them. And then you don't want to sell them. And then they have to live in a display tank if it's good. So
and then you don't sell it. And then you don't
sell
it.
No, we don't sell it. All the best stuff has to go in the display. That's how it works.
Great.
But then things.
I see your display, and it's one of the best displays going.
There's a lot of money. People keep asking me how much there is in torches in there, and I daren't add it up.
I wouldn't even like double figures. That's for sure.
I bought a couple of grand's worth from Poland or the Netherlands or somewhere. just to put in there, and that's grown since then. So I dread to think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah, don't ever add it up.
You mentioned the Netherlands. To what extent has leaving the EU impacted on corals, fish, goods? Because it does seem to be harder to get older stuff since then.
Yeah, because there was a few suppliers of corals and fish like De Jong and the one in France that I can never remember the name of, and another one. Yeah, that we can't use them. Simple.
Right.
For livestock is a no-go from the EU. You need the same paperwork as you would do from buying it from Indonesia or Australia.
Right. Okay.
So it's not coming in. So that availability is gone. And a lot of the dry goods, or at least some of the dry goods, say Neptune, for example, that all came from the Netherlands, from the wholesaler out there. And obviously Deltec comes from Germany and tons from Germany.
Aquaforest, is that Polish as well, I think?
Aquaforest is Polish, but they've got a UK distributor, so it's not too bad. But anything that came direct, like I ordered some Apex gear right at the beginning of January. It took between 6 and 8 weeks for it all to come through. One box would come, then another box would come with a VAT bill attached to it for some random reason, and then another box would arrive another 2 weeks later. It was terrible. And it's getting a little bit better, but we're still miles off. Yeah. So if anybody wants anything, you have to order it now and get it in about 6 weeks.
What's the link like with America? Because America have some really nice corals and stuff like that.
There's no trade agreement. Yeah,
not at the moment, but they're pushing a trade agreement, aren't they?
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a better link than Europe, possibly, in the future.
If they can get it here fast enough. It's a long plane.
Yeah, that's the problem, innit? It's like getting it here fast enough coming from America. In fact, I've any mistake, like 48 hours the maximum. I would have thought. I don't know about what is the actual maximum with transport when it's abroad, coming from abroad. To be fair, the packing's a lot better than it used to be a few years ago. So I got oodles. I decided to buy 200 cleaner shrimp the other week for some random reason, and they all came all stacked up. It was all in poly boxes. They were all separated, so there was no pressure on each other. All foil wrapped, all really well packed, and all the water was still warm, but there was no heat packs in there. So they are doing things a lot better than they were anyway. It's just they've got to grips with how stuff travels, and they've figured it out a lot better now, I think. I've had stuff from De Jong. I had corals from De Jong turn up late. They sent them on a Tuesday. They didn't arrive till Saturday morning, and every single one was perfect. Wow!
So it goes to show it's all in the packing, really.
Yeah. And yet you hear of horror stories where the Royal Mail just been sent out for 12 hours, and it comes back DOH. You know what I mean? And you're like, what? 12 hours? How can it be dead in 12 hours?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between our couriers and European ones.
Is that the health of the coral, or is it, like you said, is it the packing, or is it a bit of both? It could be. I don't know.
I think it's our couriers, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't think we handle stuff at the moment. I know the weather's been a bit colder. We send out a lot of buckets of salt.
Yeah.
But so during winter, buckets of salt get a bit more brittle because the buckets are plastic. But honestly, one courier must be breaking 5 buckets a week. It's what they're doing with them. What are they doing with them? How do you break a bucket of salt? We've been boxing them, and they're still breaking them.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're just throwing them around. And the problem is that comes out of your pocket, doesn't it, Dom? I mean, I know from a customer point of view, you expect it to come, and if you don't, someone's got to pay. But the problem is it's not the consumer's problem, but it doesn't help you, does it? Because that's the profit plus all the costs and everything just gone down the drain, hasn't it?
Yeah, you've got to get it. If we don't insure them, we get nothing back. So I lose a bucket of salt. I lose a bucket of salt. Things go missing. Somebody left an AI primer and a customer in a bush today, and he can't find it. Who leaves a parcel in a bush?
Well, Hermes round here, they get out the van and they like drop kick it into our back garden. So I don't know what on earth what they're doing, but
it's terrible. Yeah,
you have to pick up that loss then, or does the courier? Surely the courier picks up that loss.
Well, on the thing is,
missed a break.
This one's a bit of a dispute. He's delivered it.
What?
It's not like it's lost. It's not like it's damaged. He's delivered it. He's got a photo of it in the bush. I can see he delivered it to a bush.
Job done then. Job done.
What am I supposed to do with that?
And the Bush signed for it, Mr. Bush.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So no, well, I'll have to argue with that, and it might go 50-50. I might have to take 50% of that on the chin, and the curry will take the other 50%, or,
See, but that's wrong, isn't it, really? That's a
Yeah, it's shocking that. It's bad, that.
Yeah, it happens way more than you'd like to think.
Yeah.
No, it's not good.
No.
So just a few things in the comments, Dom. Someone's saying about getting an Apex, and then someone's come up back and said, get a GHL. What's your views on the controllers? Because you've got GHL, you've got Apex, you've got the Tronic guys, and also you got the Reef Factory as well. There's more and more come onto the market. I think probably in the last 2 years, it's probably gone up compared to when I started in 6-7 years ago. There wasn't that at all, really. What's your views around what's good, bad, and indifferent from what you've seen?
Obviously Neptune have been around for ages, but they don't really care about our market. They've not updated things. They're a bit slow at doing that because they've got America. What do they care? They've oodles of it out there. So while it's still really popular and it's going to get easier to get hold of because there's UK distribution getting sorted out for that, it's expensive, and everybody whinges about the price because you can buy it in America for less, which is the problem. I think GHL, they're going to get easier to move, but neither of those systems do I bother using in my. I haven't used either of them because it's just an expense that I don't really need. Whereas the Reef Factory stuff, we've got oodles of. Because you only need, you can use one device or two devices. You don't have to have the whole network thing. So I quite like that.
You don't need the brain and everything that goes with it, and then the stuff. I mean, I've got an Apex, but then I've got the DOS doses and everything else. You need all that. You need the power bars and everything. So you need that core part, which sets you back £600 to £800, doesn't it? Depending on what version you go.
You've got to have the whole kit and caboodle, haven't you? Whereas the Reef Factory, you can pick and mix and match. You don't have to use their doses. You can use their doses. You can just use which bits you like and add on other bits. You don't have to have it all.
So do you have the KH Factory? So go on, Steve.
No, sorry. No, I was just saying, I've got I bought the Apex and it saved my tank. I'll give it that, because it sent me an alert. When the power went out, it sent me an alert saying there was no power going to. So if I wouldn't have known that, then I could have come home and it would have been totally wiped out. But on the same hand, I do agree. I got the EL version, the one where I can add on to it. So it was cheaper. So it was like 469 or whatever, 500 odd. Yeah. But over time, I could add on to it. But I bought the KH keeper from you, from your shop the other week, didn't I? And I think that is like one of the best things I've ever bought. You know what I mean? For me, KH and aquarium is the most important thing, other than obviously salinity and stuff like that. But KH, I don't hardly test me out calcium and my magnesium, but the KH, as long as that's stable, then my tank's stable. You know what I mean? So exactly. Trident, but the Trident, there's too much going on with the Trident. It's testing three things. So it's testing your calcium, your alkalinity, and magnesium. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what your opinion is. Would you go for the KH keeper or would you go for the Trident? Which one would you go for?
I've got a KH keeper. I don't have a Trident.
No.
I think there's pros and cons to each of them. I can understand why people, if you've gone down the Apex route, you're going to get a Trident. It all works together. Yeah. But it's quite expensive to run because you have to buy 2-month reagent packs, or you get 3 lots of 2. You get a 6-month pack if you want a bit of a discount. But it's quite expensive to run. And I'm from Yorkshire, so I like to do things cheap.
That's what Jay says.
Yeah. Hello, Yorkshire.
Jay's eyes lighting up there.
How come you've gone the other side of the Pennines then? What's going on there?
I don't know. I've moved back to Yorkshire though last month. January, we moved back. Yeah.
Hey, I went to Lancaster Uni and I wasn't welcome, so I had to come back the other side again.
Yeah, it's understandable.
What's the numbers this week, Ste, on the KH keeper? How stable is it?
Absolutely rock stable, mate. It's the minimum I've seen it was because I run I don't know about you, Dom. You can think about this as well. I always run higher DKH in my tank, between 10 and 10.5. That's what I tend to run at, and it's staying between 10.11 and 10.42. So it's staying in between that area. So I think I finally dialed it in. The only problem I do have with it is you needed to calibrate it more, to get it properly calibrated. I had to do it about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
After
to start with, it's a bit fiddly, yeah.
Yeah, but after I've done it about 4 or 5 times, it seems rock steady, mate. You know what I mean? So I'm really happy with it. Definitely worth the purchase. And especially like we was talking about, when you're getting corals, LPS like torches, which are worth £200-300 a head, and £300-200 for this and £400 for that. Yeah. When you look at a KH keeper of £600, it's nothing in the perspective of what you pay for your coral. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a good investment. That's for sure.
Certainly cheaper than losing all your coral, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I've got a question here around, does the KH keeper dose as well as test?
Out of the box, it doesn't dose. It just does the testing. So, but you can buy additional Reef Factory doses to do the dosing for you if you want. That isn't a problem. And it will dose KH, or you can get it to dose. If you've got 3 or 4 doses, you can get it to dose anything you want based on your KH, effectively. So we tend to use 2-part dosing solutions on here. So we've just got 2 single-headed doses under there connected to the KH keeper. So if it goes down a little bit, it puts an extra dose in. If it goes too high, it nudges a dose.
Yeah.
So it
what do you think on this KH keeper? On the instructions, it says that you can put the reagent, once it's tested, back into the sump if you want it, or back into your aquarium.
Yeah, you can.
I don't do that. Yeah, because I don't know whether I should, but I just put it into a waste bucket and then do it that way. You know what I mean?
It's the same reagent effectively as the Alcatronic was, and for years, or for nearly 2 years when we had the Alcatronic one in here, I ran it back into the tank with no problem. Yeah, and a lot of people do, but
yeah,
it's a weird one that they give you the option. Why give me the option if it's safe?
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah, you don't have to. But you can do. That's what it says. And I'm like, hold on a minute, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna.
The biggest issue with not running it back into your tank is you're slowly taking salt water out. So you would need to put a bit of salt back in.
Well, I got away with that because what I did was I bought from your shop as well the doser. Yeah, so I bought the doser. So what I've done is, when I know that it takes 50 ml of water out of your tank to do a test. So when it takes that water out, it takes 19 minutes to do the test. Once it's done the 19 minutes, then I have the doser pump salt water back, 50 ml of salt water back into the tank. So I'll run it that way. You know what I mean? Fair enough. So it seems okay. Rather than putting it back in, you know what I mean? I just don't want to do that. But I don't see there being a problem.
No, it's different for us because we run our KH keeper on the SPS coral tray. So we're constantly putting coral in or taking coral out. So, and we clean it down every 2 weeks. So the salt levels are fairly stable anyway. We check them consistently. We have no auto top-ups in here, so everything's done manually, so we don't have any problems with that.
Tom, do you run your tanks in this shop the same as you run your tanks at home in terms of like alkalinity? And what is your alkalinity that you kind of
I don't have a tank at home anymore. I can't do another tank. There's not enough time. But we tend to match our salt. I say to all customers, match your salt. So if your salt mixes at 8, run your tanks at 8. That way, if there's an emergency, you've got no problem. So all our tanks run about 7.8 to 8, give or take, when they're on, anyway.
Thanks.
Just going to the chat, there's a couple of people talking about, do they acclimate this is to do with corals, and whether people should acclimate their corals or just dip them. What's your view on that, Don?
Yeah, we don't acclimate corals either at all. So we reverse acclimate SPS. I suppose we'll leave them out for 5 minutes to dry out in the air a bit. So when they go in the water, they'll go all slimy and kind of shed. But LPS, softies, they're all just plumped straight back in. A dip at most.
What about dipping them? What about dipping them? Do you dip your corals or do you just?
We don't tend to dip. We don't tend to dip when we get new ones in, just for time constraints. We'll check them over, brush them off if needs be, especially acros, check them for crabs and unwanted that way. But because we strip our tanks down every 2 weeks at the longest period, when all the corals are taken out and put in poly boxes, they're dipped before they go back in. So everything's on a it's all on a 2-week dip cycle anyway, pretty much, which is really poor for growth. We don't get really good growth, but it gets rid of any pests.
Yeah.
So I'm interested about this. You leave the SPS out for 5 minutes in the air, and then you put them into the tank. So what's the rationale for that?
They basically slime up like they would do if they go out of water in the ocean anyway. So if there was any differences in KH or levels between my tank and the water that they arrived in, which, to be fair, we do test it depending on where it's come from, and we know roughly, they don't seem to mind the move. I can take them out for a few minutes and move them to another tank. I don't acclimate them. I don't mess about that way. We just plonk them in.
Right. Wow. Cool. So the whole idea, what we all know as reefers, that you should do it this way. You should do it that way. It's just like you must. I don't
tell customers to acclimate coral. I tell them to acclimate cleanup crew for as long as possible because they're a lot more sensitive, and we tell them to acclimate fish. But we run our fish systems at the same salinity levels that most people do at home, so that if they don't acclimate them for long enough, there isn't a problem. But we don't bother acclimating your corals. We don't seem to have a problem with that. Just save the hour of your life.
So do you have worker fish in the tanks that would nip and look for little critters and pests and stuff?
All the coral trays have got a combination of tangs and wrasse. Yeah, pretty much just to keep on top of algae and pests.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's about all that's in there.
That's what Steve's just bought. You bought a wrasse, didn't you, Steve?
Well, I did. Yeah, I had. Well, I
didn't know. Is it plump now? Is it nice and plump after its feast?
Yeah, he's had a good feast. It's like King Henry VIII now. That's for sure. You know what I mean? So he's definitely. I didn't know actually, but I thought I had some. Well, I did have some flatworms. I bought a couple of pieces of SPS from a fellow reefer. Yeah, he didn't know that he had them. And my stupid mistake, I was in a rush and I never dipped them. So I just put them straight in the tank. And that was my mistake, you know what I mean? So then I seen one on the glass and I was like, oh my God, it had come off, it stuck on the glass. And I realised straight away. But I took it out and then dipped them. And then I put a 6-line wrasse in. And touch wood, everything seems fine. There's none stripping or anything like that. So fingers crossed I've got to it. But without a doubt, like the 6-line wrasse and tangs are the best you can add for fit in tanks.
Such a naughty fish, though.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Well, in my tank, my clownfish are like Ronnie and Reggie Cray. They're vicious, they're evil, they're horrible things, But what they'll do is, and any fish that I add into it, they go for and they usually take out. You see, well, this 6-line wrasse goes head to head with him. Literally nose to nose, and by the time the clownfish realise what it is, it's gone. It's right in the finger, and you can't catch it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think Paul UK Reefer, who's watching the channel, he had an issue with a couple of wrasse that he put in on one of his videos. They do seem very aggressive.
They can be, especially 6 lines.
Yeah, it's not the sort of fish for a Red Sea Max Nano then, Dom, no?
I would avoid it if you can.
Yeah.
Get banana like that. You can take things out and scrub them. It's easy. You don't have to worry about it.
What? Just out of interest, what's your best sellers in terms of tanks? Is there like a size that a lot of people go for, or
we tend to keep the smaller tanks in stock? But I would say in the larger things, 4 foot. 4 foot is probably the most popular size.
Is that the optimum?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, if you're buying a 3-foot tank, you're wasting your money almost because you still need 4 foot of light and 4 foot of equipment on a 3-foot tank.
Ah, right, okay.
You might as well get that extra foot of water because it's the same pump. It's pretty much the same skimmer. You still need generally 2 lights. You might as well splash out and get the extra foot of tank.
Yeah, because
that's brilliant advice. That is.
Is it because of the light? Is each light is more for like 2 foot by 2 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, rule of thumb, they're generally about 2 foot cube, aren't they? Light.
Yeah, 2 foot cube. Yeah.
Either buy a 2-foot tank or a 4-foot tank. Stay away from those odd sizes in between.
Yeah, good point, Matt. Really.
I think also with the 3-foot tanks, I was saying earlier, got a DD Pro 900. You don't have a cabinet, So, you know, where do you put all your electrics? Whereas the 1200 DD, you have got a cabinet. And I must admit, I wouldn't probably buy another tank that didn't have a cabinet, a dry area.
It's the same on the
I'm
Red
really
Sea.
clumsy.
The 250's got the same. It's got no dry area, so all your plugs and stuff are a bit sat there.
Yeah.
But, you know, people need 3 foot tanks to fit in.
What do you think about these water boxes? You know, these ones, they're in America, aren't they? What do you think about them? I think they're fantastic. And they're bringing out more and more, aren't they?
I prefer to call them Chimerican because they're made in China.
Distributed in America.
Water box itself is American, but it's part owned by China, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, the build quality is good. They come out of the same factory as the EA tanks. So if you've ever seen an EA tank, it comes out the same place.
Really?
Yeah, there's a couple of brands. There's quite a few brands made in the same factory. So yeah, the glass quality is good because, to be fair, EA's and Red Seas and everybody's glass is good quality. I like the water box build quality on the cabinets. It's a bit overkill. I've got a Nano, one of the Cube 20s in the office. It's the same size as the Max Nano behind me. It's got 3 hinges on the doors. Why has it got 3 hinges on a door and that big?
On a single door,
and 12 adjustable feet.
Hey, I mean, you know what though? If it only had 1 hinge on it, we'd be complaining.
Yeah, that's true. It's just a bit overkill. It's like they've taken a big tank and scaled it down.
Yeah.
The quality's good. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because Ross, you've got a water box 20, haven't you?
I've got the Peninsula Mini 15, mate.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
It's very similar. I'm really impressed with it, to be fair. The build quality is really good. I mean, it's a really nice tank. Again, wish I'd went bigger, but that's my own fault. But yeah, I can't fault Waterbox at all. I think they're really good. Now, I do have nothing to compare it to, other than freshwater tanks and so on. But yeah, I can't fault them, to be fair.
Yeah. Would you get a larger water box tank in the future, Ross, or would you go elsewhere? Would you?
So I think we've spoke about this before with regards to my future plans. So I'm looking to go. Ideally, probably the 6 foot Peninsula is the one that I want. But you know, it might end up being that I can go and get one built cheaper elsewhere for a kind of higher quality as such. And like we said, I can adjust the sump to suit myself, and you know, I think that's maybe a better way to go. But I mean, the water box has definitely impressed me, to be fair. So I would get another one. I know a couple of people have had some slight issues, but I think the aftercare and, you know, the service you get for water box is really, really good from what I've seen. So yeah, I can't fault them, mate, to be honest. I really can't.
I've heard that on, you know, on Facebook, on the Facebook forum, they said like the customer service is fantastic, you know, with Waterbox. So that's the main thing, you know, with it. But then again, so I've never had a problem with Red Sea. You know, when people used to slag Red Sea or say they blow out, you know, they blow out. But when I spoke to one of the reps there, it was mainly the 525s that was blowing out, and it was something to do with the sealant on it, you know, on the sealant, which it was.
Right, yeah.
And the sealant was blowing out the glass, yeah. You tell me there's no other ones that have blown out, like 250s, you know, the 750s. Not many of them have blown out. It was just the 525s. But people slag it off then. Oh, you don't want to get a Red Sea, you know what I mean, because they blow out and stuff. Any tank is.
There's a lot more Red Seas out there as well, isn't there? They sell a lot more tanks than everybody else. So even if we all have 1% of failure, there's going to be a lot more people complaining about Red Sea.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
Well, there. I mean, I know that Gaugai was speaking to me during the week, and he had an issue with his water box. But he's put in the comments there that they dealt with his damaged tank in under 36 hours, and a new tank being shipped. So, you know, you can't ask for better than that. Really.
He lives in the Isle of Man, and he can't get anything.
I know.
So that is incredible service.
Did it? Yeah.
Hopefully, it came with some corals in it for him.
Well, that's the only downside with Waterbox. If you buy direct from Waterbox, they'll ship it to the Isle of Man for free. But if he buys it through me, they charge me shipping to the Isle of Man.
Wow.
So I can get him the tanks, but I have to charge him shipping, or he can buy it direct and get it for free. It's a bit awkward.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you ship anything to the Isle of Man? Fish or corals or anything? No.
We used to do. It's been a bit cold weather, so I've not actually shipped any livestock for about a year. There's been no point because couriers can't even get dry goods there intact. So I wasn't going to risk livestock as well.
I know, because you've got a jawfish on your website, and I want one, but you're not shipping it at the moment.
You'll have to drive over when lockdown's over.
Yeah, I need to take a visit over. Yeah, absolutely. Because I know Neil's got one. He's got a jawfish as well, and I'm desperate for one. Can you have a jawfish with a goby? That's a question I've got.
Yeah, I've had them both together before. I do like jawfish. They are fun.
They just look miserable. It makes me smile. They've got like downward face. And they just kind of cheer me up with the way they look sad. But you can have them together. That's good, because that's one thing I'm worried about.
Yeah, you've only got a small tank, so you just got to be careful with what's going to fight with what, don't you?
Yeah. How many have you got in your Red Sea?
Gobies?
How many fish in total?
3.
3, yeah.
It's only been set up about 3 weeks, this one behind me. So
yeah. So I've got 3. I'm a bit worried about adding a 4th, you see. I don't know if it's too many.
Yeah, you can easily get 4 or 5, even 6 fish in there if you choose the right ones.
Yeah. Okay.
What are you turning that one into behind you, Don? What are you actually? Are you going anything specific in it, or are you?
No, I just wanted a Max Nano.
Hey, shove some of those Euphyllia torch corals in there, mate.
There was a whole selection of them down here yesterday. That a customer keeps buying them. He bought them in December and he leaves them here, and they're still here. They're in another tank.
Wow.
So one of them was a 2-header Holy Grail. There was a gold one, an Indo gold one, and they're still here. I've had them for 3 months.
And what's he doing? Growing them out, or waiting for the prices to keep going up?
Well, if they grow out, I'll just chop the extra head off. That's the rule.
I'll have a head if there's a head going.
Of Holy Grail, yeah.
I can't grow them for him. If you grow in my tank, it's my head. That's the way I see it.
Exactly, yeah.
That's fair enough.
Steve, do you want me to look after any of yours for you?
When I go on holiday in August, you can look after them, mate.
Where are you going? You've got to be in England. Can't go abroad at the moment.
So far, mate, it's Turkey. So far it is. My brother's getting married, so I'm the best man over there. So
nice.
We don't know yet. We don't know if it's going ahead, but if it does, then I'm going there. Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to know. When you, like when you go away, it's the companies that actually come down and do maintenance on you. Like look after it, because it's something I've always wanted to ask. Whether it is, because who looks after your tank? When you're on holiday. I know in America and other places there is, but I've never seen it over here. In this country, I don't know.
We do it for locals.
Yeah, deal.
So if somebody nearby is going on holiday, I'll go around and feed them during the week and maybe do a water change if they're away for a while or whatever. But yeah, there are other people as well. Yeah, I've got some names later if you want.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. Because you need that sort of service when you go away on holiday. There's money to be made for someone doing that.
Yeah, really. If you're a reef keeper, you shouldn't go on holiday. That's the rules, because something always goes wrong while you're away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't have holidays.
Well, yeah, but you need to go to Indonesia to seek out, more coral.
True.
Absolutely. So if we can go to the chats, if anyone's got any questions for Dom while we're talking, I'll pick out some of the comments, some of the questions. So you think, so the first one here, what would be your most popular coral?
Well, I know this varies shop to shop, because I speak to other shops and I ask what sells and what doesn't. So for us at the moment, because it varies again time to time, at the moment it'll be torches if we can get hold of them, and toadstools. Torches and toadstools. Because they're both easy to keep and wavy, and that's what people like. SPS is picking up again at the moment, but last year it was quite low. But I know, like down towards London, the southern end, everybody likes mushrooms down there. They sell a lot of mushrooms down there, and I can't sell mushrooms at all.
Yeah, it's not that.
It's one of those things. It does really vary place to place.
Yeah. It's crazy, that.
Have you noticed kind of recurring trends coming through, where like every 3 years or so, then it'll be zoas, and does that kind of happen, or does it just vary?
Zoas is a difficult one, because as a shop, everybody wants named zoas, so they tend to buy them off each other.
Ah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they complain when they come in and they see that I've got them cheaper. And that's another one. It does happen. Yeah, there isn't really a recurring trend. I know SPS goes up and down because people fall out with it because it is quite a demanding, time-consuming hobby when you're keeping a lot of SPS.
Yeah.
So people fall out with it and then they go back to LPS and then they'll decide to pick up SPS again. But it's all about availability. The less there is, the more people want it.
Okay, let's move on to some other questions. What is your favourite coral and fish?
Ooh, this was like an Instagram thing that went round, wasn't it? Where you had to put your favourite coral. And basically, what I write down on my Instagram sheet, Steve goes and buys it. And then sends me pictures of it to upset me.
Just to wind you up.
So Dom, what's your favourite?
I don't have a favourite coral. I don't have one. There's too many to choose from.
Fair comment.
Yeah, but fish, jawfish. I love jawfish.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Got a request there, Dom?
Mine would be jawfish and any torch, because I think the torch, just the different colours, but the flow that you get with the torch as well is incredible. But yeah, not any particular torch, but torch corals.
Yeah.
Just
Mine is chalice. I just love chalice. I just think the colours and the different range that you can get and the textures on them, and they change colour as they grow out as well. It's just something I like about them.
Don't talk to me about chalices.
How is your chalice doing? Is it looking good?
Looking splendid, mate. Splendid, but
it looks like a kid's sweet.
Yeah,
it looks like something you get out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You know, those everlasting gobstoppers. It looks like that. You know, it's just
colours are insane.
Yeah, it's stupid prices, but you know what though? It's like going back onto it. Yeah, people will pay what you know. Like, so say for instance, somebody said if it was £100, you pay £100. But if somebody says it's £400, £500, if you want that coral, you're going to pay that price. You know what I mean? That's the way it goes. That's the way I found it anyway. You know what I mean? And
every tank needs a couple of little showstoppers, and that's one of your showstoppers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where you pay a little bit extra, and it's just one of those that you're always going to have. You're never going to part with, and it's a bit special.
Yeah, and it's fair. It's quite hardy as well with those, which is good. You pay that money, and it's not going to like some of the SPS when you look at it and it'll strip. And like when Zoas were really in, and you look at them, and they would melt on some of those. So they are. I find chalice quite hardy corals. Okay, so move on. So we've got a request there, Dom. Can we go to Indonesia?
She's got to send the passport forms off that are all still sat at home. So until that's done, we can't go anywhere.
I'd love to jump on that plane as well. Love to go to Indonesia.
Have you ever been abroad, Don, to get any corals or fish or anything?
I haven't, because I do fancy going to Indonesia. I've got a supplier out there, so it'd be nice to go out there and see things. But there's so many places to go, and I find myself working 7 days a week still. So yeah, it's a difficult one. But I can put it on the business, can't I? If I go there, it's a business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Business trip.
It's a business trip for sure.
Yeah.
So,
can I just say thank you for the postage at Kraken, by the way. I know it's a bit of a curveball, but your postage is as good as Amazon. I don't know, it's incredible. You order it, and like next day it's almost here. So
if it's in stock, it'll be straight out. It's getting the stock that's the hard bit. Yeah, if it's in here, we'll whiz it out. There is 6 of us here now, and there's 3 just dedicated in the warehouse dealing with you guys' online orders. So they're a really good crew. And we just whiz it out. If it's in stock, we'll whiz it out. If it isn't, we might cry about it for a bit, because some stuff's really hard to get.
You've got a great team.
Up to me, Jake, as well. I'm the same. I get next day delivery from Kraken as well, and I'm up in Scotland, obviously. So you can't ask for better than that.
I mean, I always look on Kraken first if they've got it, because I know it'll come quickly if I buy it from you. So your team are doing a brilliant job, Dom.
Yeah, doing a good job.
Brilliant job, yeah.
Excellent. So there's a question for you there, Dom. What other fish apart from 2 clowns could I put in my Fluval Evo?
I generally suggest in a small tank sticking to what does a job, because especially if you're very coral orientated, it's trying to stick to fish that are going to do a job. So maybe a goby to help turn your sand around a bit, and a small wrasse to keep on top of any pests. That's the kind of thing that is best up in a little tank like that. Just doing a job, keeping your tank clean for you, so you don't have to.
The thing with wrasse, you've got to pick the right one, because I've got a Richmond wrasse in my tank, and it was the same size as a peacock wrasse, and now it's like 4 inches long, and the peacock wrasse haven't grown hardly at all, and this one's the biggest fish in the tank. Now, of course, I should have done research and stuff like that, but I didn't realise how big. I mean, it's not a problem because it's a 5-foot tank, but it's a beautiful fish. But it's a lot. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. But peacock wrasse are a lovely coloration on them.
Yeah, but you can get like a pinstripe wrasse, which stays really small, and he does a good job. And they're interesting to look at. Just really, there are a few small ones that are ideal. Obviously, you don't want to be getting a dragon wrasse or anything ridiculous, but. Yeah, stick to little fish that are going to do a job. They're going to pick at pests or going to clean coral for you.
Thanks. Hopefully, Adam, that answers your question. Moving on to Paul. How do you cycle a new stock tank, Don?
We are ATM colony users. Love it or hate it. A lot of people don't like it, whatever, but it's worked for us on every single tank. Yeah. And we do it every time. So it's dry rock, dry sand, and colony straight off.
Yeah. This is another thing. This is a topic that you could talk about for hours and hours. For like cycling a tank. I mean, I did it the old school way. So, well, I say old school, older school. I put a bottle of Dr. Tim's in, but then I put a prawn in a bag. And then put it in. And then when it started to rot, you could smell the ammonia. And then I changed it out. Just did it like that. But overall, it took about 5 weeks. Now, I know ATM, it takes, a day or so. You can put fish in it, or 2 days.
As long as your water's warm. The tank behind me, I stole the water out of another tank so I didn't have to wait for it to warm up. And I put fish in within the hour because the water was already warm.
Oh, my. Took me 7 weeks to get a fish.
Yeah.
One in an hour.
All the fish and all the coral that are in there, including the torch, were in there in an hour, yeah.
Wow.
If I'd have known that when I started out.
Yeah, there are other, Fritz Zyme 9 is a similar, if not the same product than Colony, and then they have Turbo Start as well, which is also popular. Again, it's all instant cycle, basically. There are pros and cons to that. Obviously, you don't learn anything by doing it necessarily, but then you're not waiting and being impatient either. So
don't you are you a high? Sorry. Are you a higher risk of like algae outbreaks and things if you do it quickly, like using Colony?
There is an argument that if you're doing it the long way around, you can leave your tank in the dark, and then you can hide away from all that ugly phase that your tank goes through, that yellow stage, the diatoms, the ugliness, and the algae. You can hide from it because you just leave the lights off for 7 weeks, which you can't avoid it when you do it the quick way.
Yeah, that's what I did on one of my tanks. I had the lights off for 9 weeks, and then I ramped them back up for 2, and it worked really well. I didn't have hardly any of an ugly stage on it, and it was fine. With swings and roundabouts, it depends on how quickly you want to see fish and the lights and everything else.
See, that's where a lot of people are. Is we're impatient in this hobby. Yeah. People are impatient. They want to get it there and then. You know what I mean? They don't want to.
They are very impatient.
5 to 7 weeks. They want to just have it right there and then because you've invested all that money in a new tank, all new equipment. You want to just get it up and running. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another question.
Can you tell who's?
Sorry. So go on.
I was going to say, can you tell? When people come into your shop, Dom, and they're just kind of off the street, and they just that day thought they're going to get a reef tank. When they come in, they're like, "What do I need? What do I do?" Do you get customers like that?
Yeah, all the time. All the time, but at least they've come to the right place.
Do you think you're just going to be in it for a few months and then it's just going to end in tears or whatever?
You do get some that are in for a few months, but we try to treat customers in a way that teaches them long-term so we can keep them long-term. We don't want them in and out. We don't want to give them bad advice or sell them stuff for the sake of selling them something. We'll test your water for, we'll test it for you to keep you going for a while until we encourage you onto doing it yourself because we want to keep you coming back and keep you in the hobby. We don't want you to be here and then getting pissed off 3 months later and ditching it.
Yeah.
So we try not to be like that. You do get impulsive people who have turned up with, they've bought a tropical tank and they want to put clownfish in there. It happens, but
yeah. There's too many fish stores, and I'm not going to mention names, but who are just in it for profit. Like profit. They just want to sell you a fish. When I first started out, I did do research, but I was excited, like you do. You're excited, and then so I had the clownfish, and I was like, I've done the research on cycle in the tank and everything, bacteria and stuff. But then I went to a certain fish store, and I asked the guy, and I said, "What can I put in with like Red Sea 170?" "Oh, this will do." And he gave me a box fish. And I'm like, "Oh, brilliant. This looks fantastic." Not realizing that they're toxic. They can wipe your whole tank out. And I'm like,
and it'll be as big as your tank as well. They get big.
I've been in the hobby like 4 or 5 months, and I was like, I've got a box fish in my tank. And I'm like, oh, I don't believe it. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. But they just wanted to make the money, off you. And that's, and I realised the store.
And when that fish dies and you're disheartened with the hobby and you give up, they've lost a customer, haven't they, effectively?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But they've made 40 quid with a box fish. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
It's a bit short-sighted, isn't it? But yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely.
So just moving on, Tom has asked around, how long would you wait to put LPS in a new tank?
1 hour. 1 hour in there. Yeah. We generally, we don't mind people putting softies and LPS in within the first few days. We don't mind, because it seems to, a lot of the, especially if we point them in the right direction as to which corals, a lot of the corals don't mind a bit of nitrates. They don't mind the phosphates going up and down. So with that in mind, what LPS would you consider as probably a couple of hardy ones that you can put in that could deal with the swings, a little bit of dirtier water? Yeah, we tend to stick with the ones that are taller. So your torches and your hammers and your waviness, which is what people want as their first corals anyway. Because they're a little bit taller, they can stay out of the way of that algae as well, to a point, and they're easier to clean if there is any algae on them. Whereas, acans and things that are lower lying can get smothered a bit easier. So stick away from those to start with. But you can definitely start with Euphilia and get that in there. And softies as well, toadstools and GSP, you can't go wrong. Get some colour in there and get whizzing away.
Excellent, thank you. Hopefully, Tom, that answers your question.
Toadstools are so underrated, in my opinion. Like the toadstools and like Kenya trees and stuff like that. I love them sort of corals. They look fantastic, in a coral. But a lot of people, they all want to go to straight away. They want to go to the torch corals, the really good wavy ones. That's what they want to go to, don't they? Straight away.
There's I've got a tank here with 3 long tentacled toadstools. They're all green ones. They look really, really nice.
I've seen them. Yeah, they're stunning. Yeah.
Everybody wants a piece of those.
So another question here: what fish do you hate the most and why?
That's a good question. That is.
Yeah. There's some. I tell you what. There's some fish that like to nip your fingers. That's for sure. Clownfish, a nightmare for it. Anything I can't catch, basically, around the tanks. So anything fast like chalk gobies, they're terrible. Firefish, dartfish, anything like that wants to jump out and go down your arm or your sleeve or on the floor while you're trying to catch it for a customer, they're the worst ones.
Yeah.
With the exception of clowns, what's your view on damsels? Because they get a really mixed view. I've got Springer damsels and I love them. I put them in as the last fish, so I kind of followed not putting them as the first fish. What's your view on those?
As a shop, we don't stock them at all.
It answers the question.
Yeah, I'll get them in. If a customer requests them, I'll go and pick them up. But more often than not, we find that a shop has sold a customer them as a starter fish to set up and cycle the tank, and then they're aggressive, and then they end up bringing them in here, and then they live out their days in a sump somewhere. It's just, so we don't stock them for that reason.
Because they're so territorial, aren't they? That's the issue.
Yeah.
And so you put them in as a first fish, they just attack everything, don't they? Whereas the last fish I've found, they have a little squabble amongst themselves. They've got their own little rocks they go to, and the order is already set in the tank. So therefore, you don't get that issue. I've had mine for 2.5 years.
I really like the Roland's damsel, which is like a 3-coloured striped one. But I had a tank full of them once, and they only ended up being 1 left because he just killed everybody else. So I've still got the strongest one. But I don't like to sell them to customers for that reason. So we don't stock them unless somebody asks for them.
That's fair enough. Got a request there. Please stock bounce mushrooms.
I can get them, but nobody buys them.
Yeah, as you said earlier on. Next one here. Ask them if you can get me a candy basslet.
Should be able to get one of them. They're not cheap though, are they? So
what do you want? Should Kevin message you for you to order it?
He can drop me a message on Facebook or WhatsApp or email or telephone or text.
Okay. Another comment here.
Just get your own in, Jay.
Sorry, mate. It's just that I had to go to the bar. I was thirsty as hell. None of you guys were going to the bar, so. I'm a Yorkshireman, so I'm not buying around. There's no chance.
I know. You won't buy me a cider, will you?
Deep pockets and short arms in Yorkshire, mate.
What's your view on elegance corals, Dom?
I really like them, and they're a lot stronger than they were. They were a few years ago. All the ones that were coming in were shriveling up and dying within a few months, and they weren't very good. But these days they're really strong. They come in. I got a gold tipped one the other week from somewhere, and that just shot out the door. It's really pretty, really nice. I've got the one in the tank with the toadstools has grown from a frag over 2 years, and now it's a big one. I like them. They're pretty, and clowns like them too. Sometimes I'll host them. So they're just quite an easy coral to keep.
Yeah. There's another one. Seems to be a lot of people's favourites, Duncans, and they're really good at first corals. I know, Ross, you went in with a Duncan pretty much first, didn't you?
Yeah, I jumped in with 2 feet and got a Duncan after Jay's recommendation. To be honest, I think it was a really good choice, to be fair. First coral, and, like you said, Dom, it's that bit of movement that everybody wants in the tank. It's got a bit of colour. Plus, it's the canary, as Jay said, that's going to give you an early warning of any issues with the water. So, yeah, I would say Duncan's high up there on my list, to be fair.
Yeah.
Can I ask about these OG mushrooms, right? So obviously they look really nice with the bubbles. What makes them bubble up? Can you make them bubble up yourself? Can you buy a cheap mushroom and then kind of inject them?
Effectively, they're not really wild occurring like that. They are heavily hammered with blue lights and UV lights until they basically get a tumour and grow like that.
Is it a blister? Is that what it is?
Basically like a tumour, effectively, yeah, brightly coloured.
Coral.
Yeah, they blast them with blue and UV until they do that.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, so you can grow your own if you're lucky or not.
Because some of these are,
don't go out, Jay, and buy 15 Rhodactis mushrooms and stick one in. It might not work.
You could buy a Rhodactis mushroom. Rhodactis mushroom, 30 quid, fry it.
Yeah.
And then 800 quid, put OG at the front of it. all my corals are OG now. I've got an OG hammer.
So does that mean if you bought one and you kept it under white, would it, or white to light, could it?
It wouldn't go back down again. No, it wouldn't go back.
Stay as it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, another one here. Good, interesting question. This one. If you didn't own an LFS, what do you think you'd be doing?
Still be doing my old job.
Oh, that's good.
Still be doing my old job because that paid. So before this, I used to design stonework for houses and do websites. So online stores, as it happens, quite luckily.
That's handy then.
Yeah, innit? So we don't outsource any of our web design stuff. I do it all in house, which is convenient. Yeah, but I also used to design concrete for houses, so windowsills and door surrounds, porticos, that kind of things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Your website is definitely one of the best. It's like so easily laid out. You know the way it is. You want it so easily. Some websites you go on, some LFS stores, and you're like, where the hell is it taking me? It's pumps. But it doesn't say what pumps, you know what I mean? Is it a return pump? Is it is it a wave maker pump? What is it? It's just pumps.
There's a lot of time involved in there, and for a small shop with small amount of staff, it's a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah,
and, with doing it in the past, and I used to work for big companies, not smaller ones as such. I was used to building them at this kind of scale, so I know what works. But the amount of hours and hours and hours, and if you ask she'll tell you how grumpy I get when I'm working on a website because just plow that much time into it.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully it answers the question. Dom, do you sell the Kamoa doses?
Yeah, I did. He's on about a second-hand one that I was selling on Facebook yesterday, I think.
What's the difference between Kamoa and D&D? Is it the same doser?
So D&D, the D&D dose is made by Kamoa, so the actual Kamoa pumps are in there, but it's a smaller design, so you won't find that anybody sells the Kamoa as the Kamoa brand anymore. The D&D get Kamoa to make theirs, but Alphatronic use Kamoa parts. The Reef Factory stuff use Kamoa parts because Kamoa making, scientific instruments at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like buying stuff from Hannah, it's good quality and it's going to work. So most companies tend to use their stuff.
I run the Kamoa X4. You know the X4. You used to stock
X4. I just got rid of.
Yeah. I've had it for just a little over 2 years, and it's never missed a beat. Never. It's like perfect. Even when I calibrate it like every month, just to make sure, and I don't even need to adjust it. It just calibrates it exactly the same. You know what I mean?
Well, the one I sold yesterday was we took it out of the display tank because we were testing another one for the Reef Factory because they're bringing out a 3-headed doser.
I've seen.
So we got a 3-headed doser to test, and we swapped it out for that basically. So I have no use for it, but otherwise it'd still be in there because, like you say, we only recalibrate ours once a year, and it's not usually slipped.
Wow, no, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Going on to those pumps though, Dom. Going on to those pumps, I looked on the instructions actually because I still had it. And it says that you're supposed to replace the actual heads of them. Now, do you replace the heads if they're damaged, or are you supposed to replace them just for wear and tear? Do you know what I mean? Even if they're not damaged, do you know what I mean?
They're the same dosing pumps as the Kamoa, really. So I probably won't bother because I'm lazy and cheap. So I won't bother until it's great. If the tube splits, I'll replace the tube. If the head stops spinning, I'll replace the head. But I wouldn't personally do it from a maintenance point of view unless you've got money to burn.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Because I'm terrible for stopping people buying stuff so they don't waste money. So Yorkshire thing.
Enough.
Tom, obviously summer's coming up soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to get some fans and things, but you don't seem to have many fans in stock at the moment. I don't know if I'm looking in the right place.
Because they're just not out, We're waiting for stock of all fans.
I'm looking for some D&D fans, you see, to go with my D&D controller. And I went straight to your website, but I think you've only got, is it GHL, I think, maybe?
We can just about get hold of the GHL ones, but the D&D ones aren't here yet. I think we're waiting for China, but China containers are so expensive now, it's ridiculous.
Because I'm guessing fans are a big thing to buy in spring.
Yeah, everybody wants to buy them in spring, but in stock. But you should buy them in winter when they're cheaper if you can, but you won't find them because they don't stock them.
I didn't need them in winter, and I wasn't well planned. That's the problem.
You can just go to B&Q and use a big one of those if you want, and that'll work.
Fair enough. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah.
They'll plug in. So.
Yeah.
Do they work well, these fans, to keep the tank at the constant temperature, or
it's just about airflow and getting evaporation in it. So especially if it's in a small closed room that's quite stuffy, you need that evaporation, but then you always get wet. So
yeah. Some people like float bottles of frozen water and things, don't they, when it's warm? Or
I understand the reason behind that, but it don't work in our tanks because they're too big, and a bottle of frozen water just melts.
Yeah.
But,
So
if you've got a consistent problem, you get a chiller. But in the UK, buying a chiller, which is expensive for one warm day a year, is pretty tough call, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're just moving on the questions. I'm about 20 minutes behind on the questions, so I will get to your question because I know someone's made a comment in there, but I'm going slowly through them because I want to get all the questions answered. So just moving on to the next one. What's the most expensive fishing coral you have sold?
Wow, good question.
So we had I've still got some expensive fishing, and if anybody wants any, by the way. The most expensive fish would have been a gem tank at about 1,200, 1,500. It was a big one. Coral wise, it's hard to say. I'm pretty sure we've had corals at £900,000 go out the door, but I can't remember what they are because we see that many corals every day. And some things more expensive. I've got one of those acanthrophilias in at the moment. They're about 750.
Do you still have that emperor? Do you still have the emperor in your shop? Was it the emperor?
In the big tank, it's a conspic.
Oh, conspic, is it? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. £2,000 if anybody wants that one. £2,000, that, yeah.
Lovely fish, that. Stunning fish. How much is that?
£2,000.
Oh.
That's why it's still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not an everyday fish. I can imagine shops. Yeah, I can imagine shops, you know, towards Cheshire where there's footballer money and places maybe moving fish like that, but not near Burnley and Blackburn.
Yeah. Wow. Stunning fish.
Fair enough.
Stunning.
He'll buy it. He likes an expensive shop.
Next question here about: has anyone any success keeping a Valentini puffer? What's your view on the puffer, Dom?
It's going to eat your cleanup crew no matter what you try and do.
Yeah.
Some people have success with putting the cleanup crew in first and then the puffer afterwards, and it doesn't see it as food as such, but it will eat anything that goes in after it. And then 50-50 whether the people get away with it not eating coral or having a peck. Yeah, some people have had it no problem. Some customers have had them for ages and ages in a reef tank. But I can't guarantee you because if I say it'll be safe, it'll eat your coral. That's just the rule.
Just don't know, do you?
No.
And then the next one, putting potentially a shoal of 6 green chromids in a reef for 250. What's your thoughts?
I would put 5 in rather than 6 because for some reason they do better in odd numbers. I don't know why. If you put 6 in, you'll end up with 5. It's just a weird thing, yeah. I'll start with 7. I don't know why they seem to do better in odd numbers. Whether it's a hierarchy thing, I'm not quite so sure. Wherever I've put multiples in, I've always ended up with an odd number. It's a bizarre thing. But yeah, 5 would be all right.
That's weird, isn't it?
And it's cheap.
Have you got any in stock? Have you got any in stock?
I've got loads. Yeah. Yeah. But like I say, 5 or 7, I don't know why. It just seems to work.
Right, I'm just going through the questions.
How do you get, John, have you ever had to take a NEM out of a tank?
A dead one or a live one?
This one's fully alive and active.
Right.
Just now.
Is it on a rock?
It's on a rock.
Well, you don't need that rock anymore. Just take that rock out and then probably...
Because it's a nano, it's pretty much a single rock scape. So
yeah. Well, if you don't want the rock, it's a perfect solution. But otherwise, you're stuck. They're a pain in the bum.
You're joking.
You know what though? I had it, Jay. Yeah, I got my power head and I turned it on 80% power.
Right.
And blasted it at the foot. You know, at the foot of it, and it doesn't like high flow. And you just basically just get your nail behind it and just slowly prise it off, and it came off. On mine.
Right.
So whether that might work, but it definitely worked for me because I took them all back to the shop.
I've got a job this weekend to
take it out. It really depends where that foot is. If that foot's gone right through a hole and out the other side, it's in the bum.
Yeah, mine was right on the outside of the rock, so it was like perfect. You know where you could
in
see
the roof of a cavern.
Yeah, might be difficult. Yeah, take your rock out, mate. Sell your rock.
Thanks for the optimism, gents.
Alternatively, if you've got time, move the rock so that the NEM's not where it was. So if you move the rock to a different place, it might decide to walk off. And while it's moving, you've got a better chance of getting it.
Good idea,
Good comment. Okay, thank you for that. This is a controversial one. What's your views on the size of tank for a tang?
Oh,
well, that would depend.
The tank police are going to be out now. The tank.
They're all out. Police are here.
It depends on the tank. Ultimately, if you've got a 3-foot tank, I've got a Tamini tank, a Gold Rush tank in our 3-foot, which is probably about as small as I would recommend. Stick with the small tanks at that kind of size. But we get a lot of customers are like, "What? Can I put a Regal in my Nano?" No. Or even I'm going to get a bigger tank. Well, no, because you're not going to get a bigger tank for ages, and it'll just get stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got a small tank, 3 foot, stick to the bristle tooth tanks. Get a small tank. That's by all means. But otherwise, we recommend a minimum of a 5 foot, ideally.
Yeah. Would you say yellow tang is too small for a 3 foot?
It's a risk. Yeah, it's a risk. I'd rather see it in a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
And with what they cost now, you don't want to take that risk either, do you? Or
True.
the availability on them.
Yeah.
You'd be better off sticking with a bristle tooth in a 3 foot tank.
They're nice tanks, though, aren't they? Anyway, they're nice looking tanks. Anyway,
your blue eye coals, your white spot ones, but you can't get yellow eye coals now because they come from Hawaii, so that availability is poor again. But and the Tamini, the Gold Rush tang, I really like with the orange fins.
Yeah.
But you do finance, don't you, at Kraken? So Neil could buy a tang and a new tank for his tank. So,
Absolutely,
a big shot. A big shot.
Brilliant. There's a question for you there, Ross. Do you feed the Duncan?
Yeah, I do, mate. Whether it's right or wrong or not, I don't know, but I feed it mysis when I've been feeding the clownfish. So I feed it frozen mysis, and I just use the wee pipette dropper and target feed that. And to be fair, it seems to love it. It's got, I think, 5 new heads growing out of it just now. So, it seems to really enjoy them. I did buy some reef roids and that the other day, but so far I've just been feeding mysis anyway, and it seems to like that.
Going on to a quick add on to that one, while if I may, is like, do you actually feed your corals in your display tank, Rob?
In the display tank, occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
But you don't actually go out. So you don't actually go out purposely to feed them anything.
Again, lazy and cheap. I feed them sporadically. I'll put phytoplankton in there on a semi-regular basis, maybe a couple of times a week, and I'll put reef roids in there if it's in my hand and I'm walking past the tank. And then some of the bigger stuff like the acanthophyllias, I might drop a few fish food pellets on. I don't generally feed the fish pellets because we feed everybody frozen in here, but I will sprinkle a few pellets on there on the bigger boys. But again, it's maybe every couple of weeks when I remember as I'm going past. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? Wow. And yet when you look at your display, you think that they've fed all the time.
But there's plenty of fish food in it. If you're putting plenty of fish food in there, they're picking up other stuff anyway. They're picking up bits of leftover fish food. So there isn't really any need.
Yeah.
Just dirtying your tank if you feed too much.
What do you feed mainly then? Do you normally feed frozen or pellets or a bit of both?
We mainly feed frozen because fish tend to come in and out, so we're trying to get them eating as fast as possible, and it's tastier and it's convenient for us. We can keep it refrigerated. Weirdly enough, pellets are a pain in the bum. They always sink to the bottom and then nobody eats them, and it dirties your tank up a bit. So it's a good thing to get your fish onto is pellet and flake because it's convenient more than anything. But I always find that pellets end up on the floor on the bottom of the tank and nobody eats them.
God, you must go through some packs. You must go through some packs of frozen food in there, then.
Yeah, 2 a day.
2 a day. Wow.
2 reams a day. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the big tank will eat a whole pack of frozen cockles on their own, a whole batch.
Wow. You're joking. God.
I've had a blister pack for 5 months.
Yeah, it's a full blister pack. Yeah,
each cube is a third of a cube is a meal.
I'm the same, Jay. A cube lasts me 3 days.
Yeah, a cube lasts me 3 days.
You are Jay, you are proper tight, aren't you? You are proper tight, aren't you?
But it's the right thing to do. If the fish are fat and healthy, you don't need to overfeed them or put too much in.
No, that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Just shows like the difference in scales, the feeding difference. And I dose like 0.5 ml of magnesium a day, and you guys are like, oh, it's 40 ml and stuff. It's just scale.
The front display uses Aquaforest components 1, 2, and 3 at 200 ml a day.
It's cheap.
That's why I use. It's exactly what. Well, I use a little more on each component. 1, 2, 3, about 220 mil a day. I'm using on mine now, and it's keeping it steady. You know, the way I want it. It's just stupid the amount of.
It's expensive though as well. That adds up because they come in 5-litre bottles. It don't last. It's less than a month.
I mix mine up with the powders though because you get
we do the same here. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get 25 litres to what, $8.99 a pack or something. So it's a lot cheaper as opposed to buying a liquid form. You know what I mean?
All the other coral trays and stuff run on the Reef's element stuff, and they're about 80 mil, up to 80 mil a day, depending on the tank, I think.
What do you think about that? Because I've heard a lot of people rave about that Reef's elements. I did look into it. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot concentrated more. It's concentrated more than the other one.
Really concentrated, yeah. It's a bit like ATI Pro, which is a 2-part. It's really concentrated. You can buy it in up to like 10-litre bottles. So if you, even for us, that'll last us a year in a tank. That's
what I mean, yeah.
So
you can stick it on a doser, go you?
Yeah. For some people, it's too strong, but you can water it down so it's not as powerful, so you can be more accurate with your dosing, especially if you've got a smaller tank. And with it only being 2-part, you only need 2 doses, so winner all round.
Have you ever used Red Sea products? And if so, why did you change? Did you not get on with them, or?
We stock Red Sea products.
Right.
I don't particularly. I only use certain ones. We don't dose with their stuff because it's like 1,300 heads of doser or something you need, isn't it, to run all their system?
Right.
It's good to be accurate with their system because you can dial each individual element in, but it's 2021 and there's more convenient systems out there, which is what we tend to use.
Yeah.
A lot of people use their AB Plus, and the carbon's really good. Obviously, there's no POX. A lot of people use no POX. But for us, it's just there's elements. The 2-part system's just easier to maintain because we've got a lot of tanks to look after. You don't want to be faffing around with all of them, and we don't test for anything because we're terribly lazy.
Right. What I'd like to do is do some quick fire on some of the questions to see if we can catch up if that's possible. So, Dom, do you still have the expensive Scully?
Yes, but it looks like a cheap one at the moment. It's a Master Scully, and it's got 3 or 4 colours, but the brightest of the colours have decided to grow underneath it. So when you look from the top, it looks like a 200 quid Scully, but if you turn it over, it looks like 1,300 quid.
Okay. Say no more. Dom, how far are you from Skipton?
35 minutes, because I live just outside of Skipton.
Okay. Right. Just going to scroll down. Any tips on growing SPS, which is probably not a question that has a quick answer. So have you got 1 or 2 tips?
It's stability. That's all there is to SPS, really. As long as you're keeping it as stable as possible. Don't worry too much about your lights. Worry about keeping everything as stable as possible if you want to grow them.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right, I'm just scrolling down.
Speaking of that then, Dom, what's your preferred choice of lights?
I don't really have one. I've tried lots. The SPS tank's currently running Hydra 52s because that's what we have on there. I've got 6 on there. I've got I won't lie to you, the fastest growing tank in the shop is the Reefer with the Reef LED 90s on.
Wow.
It grows the LPS really fast, but the colours on the fish maybe aren't as good because there's no reds.
Yeah.
So that's just a personal thing. But for LPS and softies, you can't beat them. They're growing really well. But yeah, they all seem to throw all LEDs. Pretty much the muchness, really. As long as it looks right for you, then it's. I like the look of bars as well because you get a better spread and less hot spot. So long lights are quite handy. But because
did you ever use T5s in your shop?
No, never. No, because my electric bill would be even worse.
And you've got to change the bulbs as well, haven't you? You've
got to change the bulbs, so there is a running cost involved. But obviously, T5s and stuff, you don't get the harsh shadows that you'd get, especially on SPS. That's quite important. You wouldn't get the shadowing that you might get from LEDs.
Yeah, fair comment. Next one is about magnesium. Sitting at 1,200 to 1,250. Should I be looking to raise it or let it sit as it is?
That would depend on the KH, really. If it's quite a low KH, then it's not too bad. It could probably go up a little bit to 1,300, 1,350, but yeah, there isn't that. They're all in kind of balance. So if you're running quite low, it's not too far off. Look at your corals tell you there's something wrong. We don't test magnesium hardly ever. We look in the tank. If something looks wrong, we'll test.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'll just let it do its thing.
You know what? 100%. What I totally agree there. I've always said that. If you look in your tank and something's curled up, or your torches are not out, or like your Duncans are not out, you think there's something wrong here. You know what I mean? Because your corals are telling you. You know what I mean? You don't have to. You don't have to. I don't test my magnesium. It's very rare. I test my calcium once a month. Maybe once a month, twice a month the most. But for me, if your alkalinity is good and your salinity is good, I think that's all you need to check. You know what I mean? And with the Hannah checker that you get now, the dipping one, the salinity Hannah checker, that's the best. That's one of the best investments I ever had. That brilliant piece of kit. You know what I mean?
If your salinity slips either way, though, your softies in your LPS sulk, so it's an immediate indication that you've gone in the wrong direction in some way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Dom, what are the 3 most asked questions of you in the shop when people come in?
As new keepers,
up to you, or generally.
Oh, how do I get rid of this algae? How do I get rid of this algae? That's the most common question.
How do you?
I'll tell you exactly how you do it. There you go.
Yeah, it depends on the algae ultimately, but yeah, algae and red cyano, they're the 2 most common things we come across. Everybody's always got a problem with them.
Oh, are you dosing that now, Ross? Vibrant, yeah.
I just got it off Dom this week, so I'm just trying it out, mate.
Right.
Seems to have made a difference, but that's only been, 2 days since I've done it, so.
It breaks it down, doesn't it? Yeah, that vibrant.
Yeah.
It is.
So aside from algae, what's some of the other common questions, issues?
It's algae and cyano. They're the 2 most common. And then one thing that always bugs them is how fast does this grow? Which there's no answer for that one. How fast is it going to grow? I don't know.
Yeah. How fast is it?
Yeah. How fast does it grow?
Well, do you know how fast rainbow chalices grow?
Not close.
Slowly.
I need to pay my bank manager. That's all. You know what I mean? I need to make sure he's paid.
There's no right answers to any of these questions, though, is there? On any of them? No. And there's that many ways of doing things, and that many different people's opinions on doing things. It's hard to keep up.
Can I ask you a question, Dan? What do you think is the best products that you sell?
That's a difficult one as well, isn't it? Stuff that
I know
works.
we talked about the D&D temperature thing, didn't we? And that was a really hot product at the moment.
Yeah, so there are definitely things that are more popular, like the D&D temperature control and the D&D auto top up, which seems fairly. Yeah, it's robust. We get very few back, very few. So there are certain products, and like the Shago heaters, the D&D titanium heaters, that you don't see them coming back either. So they're a strong product. Weirdly enough, like the other end of the spectrum, you've got loads of people like Bubble Mega skimmers because they're robust and cost effective. Right. Yeah, they might not always be the quietest, or people might not think they're most efficient, but they're fairly reasonably priced to buy, and parts are dirt cheap. So as bad as it is, I'm trying to think what else sells really well. Most of the stuff that DD Supply tends to do fairly well and not come back. I think David Saxby's pretty careful about what he sells, so that he has good products to start with.
I think he tests a lot of his stuff in his own tank, doesn't he?
The best products he's ever made, is maybe his company's ever made, is that Clarity. The moment that Clarity was made, it was a game changer. You know, the filter roller.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's the best. One of the best things I ever put on my tank. You know,
they just need to make a really small version for nano tanks, don't they?
Oh yeah. How good would that be? You know what? That would sell like hotcakes, mate. If they made a little one that could slide in the back of a, just like the one behind you there.
Yeah.
Just the normal nano tank, slide it in at the back. That'd be incredible, mate. Definitely.
It would be, because it's packed out in the back of there. To be honest, there's hardly any room.
And the filter roll will only have to be like something you put in a till. It'll only have to be that big.
Little pill rolls.
It'll only be like that. Perfect.
There's a gap in the market there. That's for definite.
Mate, I'm looking at it. I'm going to look at it.
That's two businesses we've come up with then. So the nano clarity and people looking after your fish in certain areas of the country when you go on holiday.
There might be a market there for me. You never know. I might quit my job.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a comment there from Scott Dom about price. Maybe that's the most common question. Be nice on the price.
There's always somebody trying to haggle a bargain, especially Scott.
To be fair, you do have a really good loyalty scheme. Genuinely, I really like the loyalty scheme. I think it's really fair, and you can get good points for what you purchase, and obviously then you can reinvest those in other products. So
yeah, and the scheme works in store as well. So if you buy stuff in store, it uses the same account, so you can buy stuff in store and online, or redeem your points either way around. Why
it's
not?
Brilliant, and it's really fair as well. You give fair points for what you buy,
and you get free stickers and sweets.
There's been loads of comments about sweets. They seem to definitely go down well.
The sweets are lovely, aren't
they? There's another comment now about the service. Doesn't say how much the price is out loud, so reefers don't get in trouble.
You've got to be discreet at the till, that's for sure.
And then that's followed up by that. No paranoia there.
That's what I've been doing the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, we a lot of people don't take receipts; they just go in the bin.
Yeah.
There's another one, Don. What are the first 3 filtration methods you would add to a tank?
So, all of our tanks, we just have bio balls, filter floss. That is it, and a skimmer. So they'll be the primary 3 for us. We don't. My sumps are so unbelievably dull, and there's so little going on. Try and keep everything as simple as possible. Yeah. I don't like filter socks. I hate filter socks. I tend to chuck them away. I go for a cup, or I cut holes in my sock and then use filter floss, so I can just throw that away weekly. That's number 1. And then the bio balls are in the sump. And if you put too many in, you have problems. So try not to buy too many balls. I don't know why people try and... They'll put a full box. A box of balls will do a 2,000 litre tank. And if you put that in the back of your nano, you're going to feel it at some point.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I've just done.
Yeah, it'll take about 6 months, but then the denitrification process will start kicking in, and then you'll have no nitrates, and then you'll end up with dinos or something, and you'll have problems the other way around.
Yeah.
And that seems to be more apparent over the last year, 2 years, with more of these bio balls and stuff coming out, which are really efficient, but it is causing. We used to have problems getting rid of nitrates, and now a lot of people are having problems keeping the nitrates at a reasonable level.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that. I was going to say that whether you could add too many of those bio balls to a system, and you definitely can, Kyle.
Yeah, I had to reduce them by at least half out of the SPS tray because the nitrates were sticking at 0, and that denitrification eats your sulfates up as well. So when you do an ICP test, you'll know if it's happening because your sulfates will be low.
Ah, right.
So have you seen an increase in the number of people coming in saying they've got a dino problem?
Yeah, massively. Over the last 12 months, 18 months, massive amount of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's got to be down to fireballs, hasn't it, then?
Super low nitrates. It's down at super low levels. Everybody's going for this ultra low systems where it doesn't really do your corals any good, and it doesn't do your well-being any good when you've got dinos and problem after problem after problem. As soon as you get rid of dinos, you usually get cyno straight after it as well, so you get a double whammy.
Yeah, but also if you're putting a lot of kit in, if you're putting a clarity in, and then you've got a skimmer, and then you're putting bio balls in, you may not understand what you've put in, so therefore your bio load's completely skewed, and you're just stripping everything out, aren't you? So it's even if you're not aiming to go low, you'll end up going low.
Yeah,
you can get too clean. As simple as that. The water can be too clean.
Yeah,
and then there's still water changing on top of that, and then that just compounds the problem. because you're replacing what's already overly clean water with more clean water, but that's got more levels in it. So you're feeding the dinos again effectively.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's just not needed.
Okay, thank you. Another question: bacteria bloom. What would you do?
More oxygen, so get those power heads right at the surface. Try and get as much oxygen and gas exchange as possible, because the bacteria does use some up. And then a UV. Simple as just chomp through it with a UV.
Yeah.
And wet skim.
So why would you wet skim? Would that
Just to
take
pull
the bacteria out?
Yeah, it's to pull it out. If the UV is not catching it, the wet skim will pull quite a lot of it out as well. You just got the only thing I've noticed is you've got to keep your power heads clean as well when you've got a bacterial bloom, because especially if you're using gyres, and the 350s more than the older ones, the fins are really close together and the bacteria tends to block them. So you need to take them out and give them a good clean.
What would you do if you had a bacteria bloom in like a nano tank where you didn't have a skim at all? What would you have to do then?
UV, definitely. You can buy a small internal UV that's just got a little pump. I don't sell them. Amazon sell them. I bought them myself for such a thing. They just sit inside your tank with a UV on there, and they'll just kill it out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Just moving on. Just a quick question now. Do people calling clownfish Nemo annoy you and Regal change story?
Yeah, I've got used to it. Everybody does it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I have a Nemo? Can I have a Nemo?
It's every day. It's every day.
No.
Yeah, it don't bother me at all. You get used to it.
That's right.
I think those directors of Pixar, the film Nemo and all that, should be sued because they portrayed the clownfish as being nice and caring and really they're like little piranhas, aren't they? They're like little piranhas, they're vicious little sods, aren't they?
They also said that Nemo's dad was Nemo's dad, and he won't be Nemo's dad for very long, would he?
Fair comment. What's your view on spotless water? I know there's a couple of fans here in Steve.
I sell water, so they're rubbish. I don't know what you're about. We don't. There isn't one round here, so I've never tested it. I can see for a lot of people it's going to be cheaper and easier. So yeah, there isn't one round here, so it don't bother me. But as long as they're keeping on top of everything, there's no reason why it can't be right. Because at the end of the day, they're just big RO machines in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know the one. I mean, I use spotless water. I'm not gonna lie, I use it. Yeah. And I don't do water changes in my tank. I haven't done one for 16, 18 months. I've never done a water change in my tank. So for me, and the water sent ICP test, everything come back perfect. You know what I mean? So there is obviously the water works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're using it for topping up and you've got one locally, yeah. As long as theirs is well maintained, because I think some are better maintained than others. And if you're in one that's less used, you'll probably find it's not as well looked after, or the water's a bit more stagnant. But if it's got a much higher turnover, you'll be better.
Yeah.
But you should get your own RO machine and make it at home and do it that way. And then you've got nobody to blame when it's wrong.
Ross is all right because he gets free water. We don't. We're on meters.
I do. Benefits of living up here, mate.
1,000 litres on a water meter of RO would probably cost you about £9. So it's not worth the hassle.
You see, I have an RO unit here, and I used it, and now I don't ever use it, But for every 25 litres I was getting out of it, I was wasting 50 litres. You know what I mean? And for me, it was just like a waste of water, and I thought, you know what?
They're still doing the same thing at Spotless, but you're just paying for it instead. So they're still wasting the water for you.
Do you think, so they would be wasting the same equivalent as what we would waste in the house?
Not quite the same. I have obviously a big machine here, and I have it down to about 1 to 1 1/4. So for every one I make, I waste 1 1/4. But yeah, we still have to waste it. And my TDS out the tap's 28.
Wow.
Oh, that's good. Mine's 300.
Yeah, my filters and everything last ages. So as a shop, I'm really lucky in that respect. I don't have to change everything very often. But even then, I'm still only getting 1 to 1 1/4.
Right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of LFSs don't have the same quality as you've got there.
No, I am lucky in that respect. I don't deny that.
That helps a lot.
I would buy one from you if I could get around here as good as that.
Yeah.
There's some 300 plus is not unusual, is it? So I am lucky.
I've tested an LFS and it was over 300.
Yeah.
Wow.
So someone loving the sweets there, and then they got a comment there. DD are good at buying other products and sticking DD on it.
Yeah, but that's business.
Yeah. Just going through, and my motto is keep it simple, which goes back to your point around how you run the sumps.
Yeah.
And then there's another comment there about EA now owned by D&D. I know when D&D, they bought, was it Simply Aquaria? And then, of course, they used to have the temperature controller, didn't they? Then they took that and developed that. Do you see, I suppose, the way that EA, their tanks, because DD make their tanks out in Essex, don't they? So, I mean, if EA are now making those in China, do we see them bringing the production back to the UK and build and, I suppose, improving that?
I've talked to them quite a bit about this. In theory, they were supposed to bring in the next delivery of EA tanks from China, but because of what's happened in China and the cost of bringing them in, they're all still sat there. They're refusing to put them on. A cost of a container has gone from £2,000 to £14,000 or £15,000. Well, if you imagine trying to spread that and over the amount of tanks you're going to get in a 40-foot container, which isn't a lot, that's a lot of money on every tank. So they've just left them over there. They're all just sat there waiting at the moment. So there is talk of DD manufacturing the EA tanks here because of that reason, which is not going to be a bad thing for the manufacturing in the UK at the end of the day. But it's all due for them because they've spent all that money on EA and now they can't get the stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I like about the DD is the fact the cabinet is pre-built. So the quality of that is top notch. So I mean, obviously, you could do that by bringing it to China, but it's going to cost even more, isn't it? Because of the space it would take up.
Their cabinets were pre-built anyway, so they brought the panels were assembled here. And it's not the whole of EA; it's just EA's aquariums that they bought. EA still make their own pond stuff and do all that separately. Just the tanks.
I can't believe how much a container's gone up. That's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's a lot of money, and it's just a real struggle because it's all right for Apple. If they bring a container of phones over, 10 grand on thousands and thousands of phones is nothing. But you're not going to get many 6-foot or 5-foot fish tanks inside a 40-foot container.
No.
And that's why all the Red Sea tanks have gone up in price, and all the water box tanks have gone up in price. A lot of them, it's just a surcharge, and hopefully, if prices never go down, do they? But if they did, they should go back down again. But
because the Max Nano's gone up about 150 quid.
It's gone up a fortune.
You said that a few videos ago on your channel, didn't you, Jay? That they've gone up.
Yeah, I didn't know why, but obviously that's why.
81 quid they went up. 81. So they used to be
pounds.
They used to be $599, and I think they're $680 now.
Yeah, $680. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just because of what it costs to get them here.
I bought mine from you for $549.
Oh, wow.
That was in September.
You can't get it now. You can't get it now.
They've gone through the roof. Everything's gone through the roof because just getting it shipped in is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just moving on. What should you keep your nitrates at roughly on a water box cube 20 gallon?
Everybody else says something different here, but we generally recommend 5 to 8 as a good point to keep them at. I don't like below 5 because you start having troubles. So between 5 and 8, 10's all right. We're not bothered. We're not bothered at 20, to be fair, for a lot of things. But 5 and 8 is what we aim for.
Yeah.
That is another topic that you could talk forever about is nitrates, couldn't you? You could.
Everybody likes things at different and recommends different things, but for our everyday, the people in that come in everyday customers, between 5 and 8 is what we aim for. Like I say, we're not too worried if it's a bit higher. If it's 50 all the time, you've got an overfeeding problem. But
that's interesting. So why did they make the Hannah checker between 0 and 5? Because for most people it wouldn't work.
I don't know why they would do that.
It seems strange, though, doesn't it? If you're going to make a piece of kit for aquarium owners,
yeah, you can adjust it. But
is...
yeah, it was a mistake in my opinion. But there you go.
I couldn't understand that myself when that nitric. I mean, Hannah, yeah, don't get me wrong, I love Hannah products. I love them all, yeah. Apart from the calcium test, I can't stand that one, yeah. But other than that, I love them all. But when they brought out the nitrate test, I thought it was going to read whatever it read in your tank, you know what I mean? And then it was like an ultra low nutrient one, and I'm like, who in the right mind? I mean, I run like 5 ppm, but if it went to 6, that nitrate tester would be no good for my tank. You know what I mean? Because it's just. I can't understand the logic behind, and plus it takes 20 minutes to do it. So you know what I mean.
It should go up to 20. It should be 0 to 20, and
0 to 20, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't know why it goes to 5. It's stupid. I sell lots of Hannah, and we like Hannah, but that's stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, comment. Another comment there about more bio balls than the more you can stock.
That is true.
Fair comment. Right, I think we're pretty much up to date on comments.
Nice.
So how do you? So Dom, if you looked at the next couple of years in the industry, how do you see it evolving? If I look at the last couple of years, certainly automation and with the Reef Factory and all that kind of stuff, even more of those on the market. And you know, I don't know, was it 3 years ago? There probably wasn't an out control on the market, or roughly about that time scale.
It wasn't.
How do you see it going?
There's quite a lot more of them on the horizon, and there's at least 2 more coming in the next 6 months, 12 months. Whenever the problem is getting parts from China now, people can't manufacture very well, so that's slowing everything down a little bit. But yeah, I think it's going to go more and more automated, which I don't like necessarily. While it's good, it kind of removes you from the hobby as well. You're no longer doing stuff yourself. You're not touching your tank. You're not doing your tests. You're just letting it ride. And you're just spending more money and getting nothing out of it. It's no longer a hobby, is it, to a point?
No.
Yeah. Is there much more that you could automate? Sorry, is it? Go on, Steve. Go on, you first.
Sorry. Go on, mate.
I was going to say, is there much more you could automate? Or is it more of a linking things together? That if you measure it, you see X and you dose it, and it's more a combination of things.
If Alcatronic came out, and then they brought out their dosing one, didn't they? And then they've got the Mastertronic that should have been out 4 months ago, but hasn't quite made it to show yet. Next week or 2, that will test anything that you tell it you want to test, pretty much, that you can get a liquid test for. And they had the other thing they had before, which did the same thing. It's all going to be just about automating tests and linking that to doses and trying to make it do everything for you all the time, which it's a bit like self-driving cars. That's going to take the fun out of driving, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the point of having a thing that's like a bus?
It's a very good point.
The one thing that shocks me, like, when it's not, I mean, like we said, we talked about like automating doses and like the things that test for alkalinity, calcium and stuff like that. But there's not many like par meters, you know, like really decent par meters that the most average people can afford. You know what I mean? I mean, you have the Senai, then you have the Apogee, yeah. But other than the Senai, there's no decent, you know, there's no par meters, and yet lighting in an aquarium is one of the most important things you can get. You know what I mean? But you have that one that is it the Sen? What is it? The
Senai one, yeah.
Which is like £700. You know what I mean? And I'm like, whoa. I mean, well, I do want I haven't even got a Senai, but I think we should all have something to monitor our, you know, thing. But other than Senai, that's the only one on the market really that's pretty decent. You know what I mean? I don't know of any more.
But there's no consumables for it, so we can't keep selling this stuff.
You should be able to rent them from the LFS. You should be able to rent.
We rent ours out if you want to borrow it. Yeah.
Oh, can
you? You rent your the £700 one out, don't you?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. And it does more than par. It's a spectrometer, so it shows you how much blue's in there, how much white's in there. But it also lets you select the coral for that position, so you can say how well is this coral going to do in this position, and it'll give you a red to green indicator for that coral as well.
You know what? I need to rent that. I need to get that one. I need to, and because I'm putting all these corals in my tank, and I've got an average. I know roughly what it is, but well, because I tested it with a Senai, a friend's one. But I have adjusted my lighting, so I definitely need to. I need to check that.
There isn't much on the market, but it's a difficult thing. How many are you going to sell? Because it tends to be that you'll buy one and then you'll lend it to all 5 of your friends. So it's not. I can't see there being that much incentive for companies to make it when they can't sell you a lot of them because there's no money in it, or they become very expensive, like the Spectra, which is designed at selling to shops who are then going to rent it out more than it is selling to the consumer because it is such an expensive piece of equipment. And you only really use it once. You set your lights up and then you leave them alone, and then you don't need to use it again for ages.
Fair comment.
Yeah.
Another question there. What's the best way to lower nitrates without water changes?
There's loads of different ways, isn't there? I like growing Cheeto and macroalgae because they just pull on it naturally. Then you've got your nitrate removers, which are all effectively carbon dosing in some form or another, which do work, but depending on your phosphate levels and a whole load of other combinations. There's no right or wrong. Each person's tank is different, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And everybody does it in different ways, and it depends on how you're treating your phosphates as to what works. Our display tank is just got an AR1 reactor on there growing Cheeto. There's nothing else going on. The fish stock's quite low. And then in the other tanks, we'll just concentrate on using liquid nitrate removers and liquid phosphate removers instead.
I've seen those lights. You know those lights. Did you get those lights, Dom?
The Tunzi ones, the Refugium ones.
What do you think of them? The waterproof and all that, aren't they? Those lights?
Yeah, the submersibles. You can put them underneath your Cheeto.
Yeah, I believe so because I've seen somebody actually put one right underneath it. Underneath one, and then one over the top of it, and it grew. It supposedly grew Cheeto like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're a good price light as well. So a lot of people buy 2 and do for that exact reason. They have one under and one over, but the availability of them has been terrible again because Tunzi haven't been able to get some of the wires to manufacture them.
Got you.
It's been a massive delay.
Yeah.
And that's a problem we're seeing again and again. Senai are having the same problem. They can't get bits to manufacture, so there keeps being a delay. And then by the time you've got a chunk delivered, you've already pre-sold all of them. And people are waiting for them and shouting at you. And then you're on the back foot again, and then they're on the back foot again.
Yeah.
Some stuff is just going to be a struggle for the next 12 months, I think, until it all settles down. So buy those Tunzi lights that I've got 20 of while you can.
Nice. A couple more comments there about par meters and not cheap, which we've said about. And also it says here, Senai is awful. That was Paul. And then a couple other comments. Ryan's coming down for some SPS tomorrow, Dom, so that'd be good. And I use Paul saying he uses the NIOS nitrate kit, which is the one I use. Actually, I find that pretty useful. I find that quite a decent one to use. And then Practical Reefer. Do you ship the par meter for rental?
It is on our website, but if you're doing it from a distance, if the locals and they're fairly regular, we're not going to charge you the 800 quid deposit, which we need when we're doing it online, because it's such an appeal. It's so expensive. If you break it, lose it, I'm out.
You know that par meter, Dom. What do you do? Is it the same sort of setup, or do you need to download something on a laptop, or what?
You need to plug it into a laptop or something while you're measuring, or a Windows tablet with a USB would do the job. Right.
Okay, we're out of questions. I don't know if anyone's got any more questions. We've just gone past the hour. I think we'll wrap up. Guys, you got any more questions for Dom?
No, I just want to just say thank you for the business that you've done with me, and as a customer, you're doing a cracking job, and so are your staff. They do a brilliant job there, and I will continue to shop at Kraken, honestly.
It's because he wants the stickers and the sweets. I'm going to have to start putting Yorkshire tea bags in, aren't I?
Yes, mate. I'd love a Yorkshire tea bag. If you get any fans in, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah, we'll try and get some ordered up. But
cheers, mate.
No, I echo that exactly. Yeah, fantastic job. I love Kraken Corals. I go there most of the time. In fact, I go there a lot of the time because they're the only ones that stock the the alkalinity, you know, for the Hannah checkers. Anywhere else, I can't find them whatsoever other than online. I can't get them anywhere, mate. I'm like, what's going on? So, no, they're a great company.
That's a good comment, that is, Paul. That's a good comment. Is that, do they work? Just Jam work at Kraken?
He does, yeah. Of course he does. Why else is he asking for it? It's only April. We'll all get one in April.
Some more nice comments coming now. And you don't get many now. Someone saying, thank you for taking my money.
It's a pleasure. I'm always here to take your money. People are, it's nice to be on things like this because it is a lot more friendly in a small group. You go on Facebook, and to be fair, it can be quite arsey on there. And people, when you get reviews and stuff, people are really quick to review when you've done something wrong, but not so quick to let you know when they've done something right. So it is good to hear.
Right. Echo, yeah, definitely.
It's flooding in at the moment. People are thanking you.
I know. The big thing for me is the delivery, like we touched on earlier, Jay. That's the big thing for me. I mean, that's my go-to due to the fact that you can get it next day on most stuff. So yeah.
He's probably paid too much. that must be his mate that works with him.
Yeah. No, that's Scott.
Very good.
Some really nice comments there, Dom.
We do try our best. We do try and whiz it out. It's just for us, it's stock. If we can't get it, it really annoys us. But we do try and let everybody know when it's going to be late. And apart from to Gao, because it's his own fault. He needs to move house.
We get this every week from him saying he can't get any stock, he can't get anything, but he's still in the hobby.
Yeah. It's dedication, though, to be fair, with no shops and still being in the hobby, he's doing well.
Do you think you'll restore the delivery for livestock at some point? Is there a plan to do that, or will you always be collection only?
Our livestock, we've not done it for the past year because we've been so busy online and the because the couriers have been so overwhelmed over the last year with everybody being sat at home ordering. We've not done any livestock. We've turned critters back on this week or last week.
All right.
You can buy critters online, and we'll post those out. And if that all goes well for a couple of weeks, then I'll start turning coral back on. But it's just a job in its own, managing the coral online, because everybody wants to see a picture of the actual piece you're getting, and that's a task in its own.
Yeah.
When somebody buys it in store.
Yeah.
You just do what eBay do, and they put a different picture of what you're getting.
Yeah. When you ship coral out, Dom, do you have to use like a specific company to send them out? Or
we tend to use Royal Mail, which means we've got to stay under 2 kilos, and that's because we fell out with the courier who does do livestock because they kept smashing everything. And we don't get refunded on your coral when you ship stuff. So if they break it, damage it, make it late, you get your postage back, but that's only a fraction of what it really costs. And if you lose 1 coral in the post, that's your profit on the next 10 corals, isn't it? So
this is what I was going to ask you actually. So obviously we've got a lot of money in our tanks and insurance and things like that. Now, do you know of anywhere where you can insure your tank and your livestock? Obviously, I know you've got a business that probably falls under there.
You can insure your tank, and you can insure your rest of your content should your tank leak, but you can't insure livestock.
Right.
Even I can't insure my livestock.
Right. Really? So your business insurance doesn't cover that?
If somebody was to come along and smash the tanks, maybe I could claim on it like that.
What about a long power cut?
No. I think I'd be stupid. I don't think I'd be able to claim on that. Yeah.
So do you have backup? Have you got a generator or anything like that, Dom?
I've got a spoon.
I wasn't expecting that as an answer.
I thought I was hearing things then.
Our electric bill's massive, so it'd take a lot of generator to keep this place going.
I can tell it's massive because your lights have gone out.
Has Michelle turned the lights off from home?
Yeah, the batteries run out on the camera.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've got to save those pennies, haven't I? I've got to save those pennies.
Yeah.
I think I think the electric bill alone in here is about 1,400 a month.
Wow.
That's a lot, isn't it?
You'll have a heart attack if it was that much, won't you, Jay?
Right, my head'd fall off.
A lot of 50p's, isn't it?
Hey.
I struggle with a blister pack every 3 days. Oh, brilliant!
Dear.
Brilliant.
Right, so I think we're done. So next week, Steve, we're on your channel. So on Mogsys Aquarium, same time, same day, Friday at 8 p.m. We've had at times 57, 58 people. So 4th week running, we've gone up week on week. So thank you very much for all those people that have joined, taking 2 hours out of their Friday evening. We really, really do appreciate you being with us for that time. I've tried to cover every question. I think I've covered most questions, if not all of them. I haven't covered all of the comments, and Paul, as usual, from Reef Community Worldwide, keeps me honest on that. And there's always a little bit of a dig in the ribs if I'm not going fast enough. So thank you, Paul, for keeping me on my toes. Much appreciated. So, Steve, we're over on your channel next week. Dom, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, even though I can't see you.
Thanks.
Some great questions, guys, and some really good and honest answers, right down to how much you pay in your lecky every month. That kind of makes your eyes water.
That's why it makes me cry. That's how bad it is.
That's why you turn the lights off. £1,399 because he's turned the lights off.
Yeah, I've got to save it.
So thank you very much, guys, for everyone who's joined, and we will see you next week. Have a great reefing weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.